Oral History Interview with Doris and Irene Forte by Kathleen Redgate, conducted on March 23rd at 76 Webster Park, West Newton, Massachusetts. This interview is conducted as part of the West Newton Lower Falls Oral History Project of the West Newton Public Library. The general subject areas we will be covering will include life and work in West Newton and Lower Falls from 1920 to around 1950.
Caddy at the Braeburn Country Club, and also he worked for the florist. We lived across the street from a florist, and he had two positions, and he was such a good caddy, and he learned how to play golf at the same time that they made him the head of the caddy master. And he put on the girls' skates. They had a pond in Forte, and he put on their skates, and he was a favorite. He had personality, and besides a hard worker, and he was a good caddy to play a good game of golf also. And this Mr. Clemens of Pearson Clemens Wool People offered him a position, and he said to work when he graduated from Newton High School. He said that hesitated about that because he had wanted to go to Massachusetts Agricultural College because he was interested in flowers and so forth. But Mr. Clemens said, "Why waste your life doing that?" He said, "I do not hire any college students because they refuse to work in the loft and learn the wool business. They feel above it. So we take only high school graduates." So my brother did that. He worked for, took the position instead of going to college, and he brought home samples every night of different wools, and he'd feel of them. And he did so well that later on he left Pearson Clemens and started his own business, Forte, Bouquet and Sawyer. I guess at that time it was Forte Moran. But
This is your brother Oliver.
Not that, my brother Orville Willis. And all boys have a chance. My other brother was a good caddy, and after he graduated from high school, because he had to go to war, he went to the Naval Academy so that he could start in as an ensign. But there were such good chances back in the teens. And then after he got out of the war, he decided that he didn't want to ever work inside. He worked for Ivor Johnson at first selling, and decided that was for him, that he wanted to be outside and turn pro golfer.
And which brother was that?
That was my brother Lewis.
Yes. How many children were there?
There were 7. And Lewis and Louise married Jess Gilford, the famous golfer at that time.
So you're talking a lot about where your brother's caddied and all the golf. Which country club is that that's here?
That's the Braeburn Country Club. And at the time that my brother was working there, they wouldn't take anybody by the name of Forte or Mahoney, or you'd have to be a habit or a lodge. But later in life, he was one of their best members because he was one of their best golfers, and his daughter was the winner of golf at Braeburn for 4 or 5 years. But back in the teens, of course, there was really desegregation. I know when I went to Sunday school at the Congregational Church, when they built the new church in the hill, the children on the wrong sides of the track were not one Sunday school class, and the children from the hill were in the other. So it wasn't just the colored people, it was the white people who had.
Well, what is your background in French? French?
My father is French, Huguenot French, and my mother was Irish, and she came from Springfield, Mass.
Did their parents immigrate here? Were they immigrants?
I think it was probably my mother's grandparents.
So it was a while back.
And my father's grandparents. Because they said that his parents settled on the Hudson River. That's the best we can find about it. And they stayed here for a while and couldn't get along because of the language barrier. So went to Canada where they could be with French people, and then they came back into this country. But the times were so good. We'd walk to high school and enjoy it. And when we were children, we skated here, and we would go to Bullo's at night and walk home from Bullo's a couple of miles and not mind it, not be afraid. There was no fear. Of course, we lived in good times, better than now.
What is Bullo's?
Bullo's is in Newtonville, off Walnut Street. And it was the city took over and had lights for us to skate at night, and they had a van watch us. Father, nothing rough, and our parents wouldn't mind our going there. And there was a house for us to change our skates. Then there was a fire in it.
So, did you attend Newton High School?
Yes.
And then you went to music school afterwards?
Oh, I went to the Newton Technical High School, and Irene went to the Classical High School, and she had her study periods arranged so that she could be home practicing her violin. And I studied took a business course on account of the war. I signed up to be a school teacher, go to normal school, which at that time, I believe, was free. You went to Birmingham. I think you could go for nothing in the early teens. But Mother said because of the war that I better get trained for business. The oncoming war, because there was war going on in Europe, we went into it then. And so I did take the business course, and I went to the Charlotte White School after work, on Saturdays, and did my practicing. But I did play professionally, and played at the Flip Hotel for 2 summers, and then I played Toy Town Tavern in Winchester, which is now I think a seminary. for priests. But everything was so perfect for children to be brought up, to be educated, get chances. The rich people would help, like Miss Eager would help the music school so that we could get our lessons for 25 cents, and then she'd even throw in tickets for symphony so that we could get well educated musically. Give us tickets for Friday afternoon.
That sounds very neat. How long did you play professional? Did you do it for a long time?
Well, after I went to Toytown Tavern, that was a long stretch from June to October, and I started I didn't practice enough. I made up my mind that I just could not stand the strain of practicing 3-4 hours a day. I would rather be out on a tennis court or skating when the ice came. So I went to Newton High School at evenings. And while I was there was a chance to go to Lee Higginson's to work in Boston. That would be about 1926.
What is Lee Higginson?
Lee Higgins is a brokerage house. It was a very ritzy one. It was Lee and Harding and Hallowell. And I even wrote letters to Alice Longworth, who was in Washington, the famous Alice Longworth. She was a niece of Mr. Lee. And I didn't want to take the position because I had bobbed hair. They wouldn't take anybody with bobbed hair. So the high school teacher said, "You've got to take that position at Lee Higginson's because they will only take Newton High School graduates. Other than that, they have to be college graduates."
So you were high school.
Oh, it was a great time. Mainly because in the technical course, they had English for 4 years, even had college English along with it. So we were high in English, and that's what Lee Higginson wanted, perfect English, along with the stenography. So I went to work there. I played, took engagements nights, playing for weddings and ministers' receptions, and played at midnight mass at St. Bernard's.
So you kept it up.
Kept it up.
Still playing.
Yes. Well, very poorly, but my sister still plays well.
Well, how did the businesses coming into listening, and you watch them, not watch the railroads, but when you watch the roads, the big highways being constructed in 3 and 128 and 9, they were being built up. How has that changed this area? It's brought more people in. I'm sure it's a bigger area, but maybe the atmosphere of West Newton, do you think it's been affected?
No. It's very bad because we were thought nothing of walking. We liked walking. We exercised in it when we were children. We did all our exercising bicycling and hopscotch and jump rope and everything that they're doing physical fitness now. And we had that in our natural way of living and enjoyed it. We enjoyed walking to high school. And in fact, my friend and I walked home from Boston just to see if we could do it. And that was 11 miles.
It's a good long walk.
But I could see what harm it's done. When we first moved here in 1926, the homemade school teacher who lived next door wouldn't let the children, well, there weren't many children on the park, but she wouldn't let anybody come and play on the park. It was beautiful. It had all kinds of flowering bushes, and that's my sister. And then after she died, and the children played on there, and would go out and play. But as time went on, the children would go out. As years went by, they'd go out and play for 10 minutes, and then that was it. And then came the radio and television. That spoiled it. Nobody plays on that park now. The children all hang around and do nothing. It's a shame because they don't have the good life that we have.
So, Newton, it really was a community. And did you know everyone around?
Yes, we knew everyone around. Well, now, for instance, the man who worked for the city of Newton next door, they were friendly enough and all that, but I'll let my sister.
The interruption here is Doris' sister Irene coming home, and now the interview will be with both Doris and Irene.
Interested in 1920s to 30s, and where our interest would be more before that.
Ours was when we were, 1920, I don't know. Before that, when we were in Irish and Italian neighborhoods.
Well, they'd love to hear about that.
That was way back. That was when we lived up Father Webb Street. We were surrounded by Irish whose presidents all came over, didn't they?
Yes.
And they worked up on West Newton Hill for the chauffeurs and gardeners. And of course, there were other nationalities too. There were some Portuguese, but they were mainly Irish. Then, when we moved,
Well, I know, but you're wiggling it.
keep still. Then, when we moved down to 133 Street, up to Webster Street, we were at the top of Border Street, and Border Street was inhabited by Italians, and Oak Avenue, which is this way, was inhabited by, and they would go along the streets, jabbering in Italian in the middle of the street. And my niece remembered them carrying live hens by the legs as they went, and they'd gather down on Border Street at night, on Saturday night especially, and they'd sing Italian songs, and just that's gone forever there. No.
Well, they'd come by our house where we lived on Webster Street. They'd come by our house. They'd sometimes have a guitar, a banjo, and sing. And
they traveled between Oak Avenue. They had no connection to anyone else. They only spoke Italian, so their friends were centered on Border and Oak Avenue. And then, of course, the music school started in 1911. That was one of the.
I told her.
You did start. It was only one of the second one in this country. One that had already started in New York, and this fight started it in the day nursery down on the street. It wasn't the nursery, it wasn't.
And you played a violin.
And yes, and I studied with the man at the end of the street, and then he sent me to this fight, and then she founded the school, and we both went into the school. At that time, they charged about 25 cents per lesson. They used to say they had to go out and haul the children in. It was something brand new, but they were talented boys, and they were interested in them, so they did all they could to get the ball rolling. Now, of course, the rates are exorbitant to go there. Probably $10 an hour or $8. That's up on West Newton Hill now. You can tell them that are saying
Well, when you're talking about the talented boys from today, was that group of people working in the mills?
the Italians, they must have been gardeners too. I don't know what the Italian men did. I think that they were gardeners, probably. I don't think the Irish tended gardens. I think they did.
Well, I remember the Guzzies coming around selling vegetables.
Oh, yes. I think they
They
raised
lived on Oak Avenue, and they would raise vegetables and come around selling vegetables.
And of course, my mother never had to step out of the house for anything. Everybody came.
Mr. Ryan would come and give with all the groceries. And at Christmas time, he'd give us a bottle of wine, a big candle, and Christmas candy. And we look forward to that every Christmas.
And then a fish man came, a meat man came to the door.
Fish man, meat man.
Fruit man. That little guy.
And the big thing was my mother and father to go shopping Saturday night, because my father had to carry the heavy bundle. But they loved that because everybody shopped Saturday night. She'd come home and tell them how, they'd make 2 or 3 hours of it, and come home and chatted with Mrs. McCarty and
of course, West Newton, it was the center of Newton. The city hall was here, and the police station was here. They had a players' hall where they had theater. One of the early, just the people in Newton gathered to.
And I played
they were very good too.
And I played for one of the Mikado.
Yes, Sullivan.
And then when they had drama, I played between the acts because cellists were scarce.
And I have a bank book. Everybody marvels at when I go into check to have it brought up to date, because it was an account started in 1936 or 7. They'd never see those accounts. And at that time it was just a one room up over a drugstore. Then nothing's left of the place now.
I have a stock certificate of the First National Bank of Boston. And then it was First National, now it's Bank of Boston, and I bought it. I was at Lee Higginson's, and I bought 2 shares, and it came to over $300. I bought it just before the crash in October, and I still have it. I still have that. That was 1929.
Just before the crash?
Just before the crash. The crash was October 1929. There's the mailman.
Well, let me see if there's anything I have to tell you.
You talked a little bit about the war and what we're going into now, but how did the war make a big effect on you? Maybe, were people really patriotic, or did you lose a lot of young men from the area?
We lost more people from the influenza.
That's right.
We had neighbors die. My brother Raymond had influenza, and the Newton Hospital was full. So there was a Woodland Park Hotel, and I remember my mother crying when they took my brother, Raymond, to the Woodland Park Hotel. But he survived. But that was rare to survive, that influenza. Across the street, the baby died.
Oh, Anderson's had
And
3
the
or 4.
Andersons had 2 or 3 die. And May Hargadon died.
Yeah, all this stuff.
All our neighbors dying. It was worse than the war.
And the war,
Of course, our brothers were married, and then Lewis was in the war because he had gone to that naval school.
but I was in the graduating class of 1915, and I was only 16 then, but there were some of the class who went, or if they went and didn't graduate, the ace, one of the ace flyers who became a director was about a year ahead of me. He must have graduated in 1916, and his name was William Wellman, and he came back and became a very famous movie director of plane, when they were making pictures of planes.
I think he directed the picture Wings.
And he's not living, but he was no scholar as I remember, but he just happened to be a good flyer.
I think his brother is still living.
Arthur Wellman.
Arthur Wellman, and he's a multi-millionaire.
He started in the wool business, and my brother just passed away. They said was one of the best wool merchants of this century, and this Wellman was also would be even classed higher than Otto, I think. He would be he would probably be maybe the top wool man of the century. But anyway, he's very successful. What they did, very great powers. Well, I don't know what that.
Well, when was the influenza epidemic? When was the influenza epidemic?
That was just 1918, just after the war ended. And then, yes, I know. I remember everybody was very ill with it, and I went down to teach one of my first years, and the only experience I had was that I had to flop onto a desk in the middle of the afternoon. I evidently had to touch it. That was all. Did Doris mention the colored village here? Mm-hmm. Well, that was another branch. This Newton was probably one of the first settlements of the Civil War, aftermath of the Civil War, because there were so many not prohibitions, what do they call it, William Lloyd Garrison.
Statue of him. Isn't there a statue of him of his ancestor in the Fenway?
What did they call the colored, the people?
Abolitionists.
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 Yes. So William Lloyd Garrison lived up on one of all our lives, the descendant lived right here in Newton, West Newton, and they had their first. The Baptists took in the colored people, so that they had was colored and white, and it was right in the neighborhood. The colored church was just around the corner from the Baptist church, and then they built 2 other churches. I remember passing one on Washington Street, just across from Perkins Street, and then they built another one right in the village, which was called the River Baptist. That's in existence. The other one was torn down.
And on Elm Street there was a building that was used for well, anybody could use it, and so the Holy Rollers got into it. They were colored, and the white children would all stand at the door and watch. They didn't mind, and they'd be going like this, and rolling all up and singing, but they didn't mind watching them.
Where was that?
That was on where the troubadour would be now.
Oh, was that so?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
No, you didn't, because you were married to your violin,
Well,
and you never knew what was
I
going
did.
on.
I used to walk to the Baptist church and see the other church.
Well, Anna Hagen and I used to
Was
watch
it a
the Holy
church?
Rollers.
Was it a church?
No, well, they just used it on, just sort of camped there occasionally when they met.
And there was...
And they could do it for free. So they'd gather, and they were having a lovely time, and didn't mind the white people watching.
Where was that huge elm tree? That was quite a famous tree, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A big one down.
That was a market. There was a market. That was the Jensens lived over the marketplace and kept a dancing school. And when I was 14, I went to the dancing school. And a fat boy used to see them. Used to step on my feet.
The colored girls was really something we grew up, of course, with colored children in our class.
Oh, there was one colored girl sang in the music school. She learned to sing in the music school, and her voice was beautiful. She could have made the opera if she had guts.
Had the backing. Was perhaps
It
stolen.
was a shame because her voice was something. But we were so lucky to be able to be able really to live like rich people, to go to symphony and go to these concerts in Boston and have tickets given to us, and made us a little bit arty. When our folks couldn't afford to do it, they couldn't afford to give symphony tickets.
And of course the second church was where we went. And that was an old church when we were growing up.
I showed her the chairs that came there that we sat in the Sunday school.
Well, I have wonderful books on that church. If you wanted to get in touch with them, that was the second church in Newton. And I think it was on the site that we might have been in a church that was rebuilt, but that was the site of the first church, of the second church in Newton, I think. That was right next to the City Hall, the police station.
But the Protestants mingled with the Catholics, and there was nothing to it. I used to go up with my friends when they went to Mass, to confession, and sit in the church while they went to confession. And then when my girlfriends had children, they'd recite their catechism. I'd hold the catechism and they'd recite it to me. And nothing of mingling.
And of course, there was the
Jewish people too.
There were restrictions when we were growing up. I don't think Mary Sippy only could have me for a bridesmaid.
And I couldn't be bridesmaid to Mary Cochran either.
And the children, when the music school was starting, we didn't have a hall. And if we were invited to give a concert in a church, we always had to think about whether the Irish children or Catholic children could come, because they were banned from going into Protestant churches.
That's right.
For quite a long
But Mary Scipione, she didn't care. She went ahead and played in Protestant churches.
They were beginning to weaken a little bit at
Yeah.
that time, too. And, this is one of the old houses, isn't it? That's in the book. That's in the book of old houses. They're about 1835, I think. And that's one that they put that one in because they've done less least change. Sometimes they change different, but there are only about 6 of them in Newton here and on Webster Street. But I don't think you'll find them anywhere else. There are 3, I think, on the street.
So this is a real area.
Yes, for it is.
Do you know who the first settlers were in this area? So this part of West Newton?
Oh,
I mean, not the people, but the kind of people where it was
Wouldn't it be the Allens of the Allen School? Wouldn't they be about the oldest that we know of?
well, Webster Street was one of the old streets in Newton, or Washington and Webster, on the diagrams that they show of old houses. Any history on Webster Street was an original street, and that's where the Allens built. I don't know when the Allen School was built.
There are so few people
Here,
left in Newton. I know I go up to St. Mary's Putty Bridge on Mondays, and there were only 3 people there that came from Newton.
originally.
Yeah, originally, yeah.
There's the.
I had a book on
I saved all of that together. That would tell you about the early time. But
I had a book on Newton, and I loaned it to somebody, and they never returned it.
I'm sure the Newton book, probably has this.
Well, have you got in touch with the Newton Historical Society yet?
We're not doing it together. Good project.
What are you majoring in?
I'm a history major.
That's good.
That's why we're doing this with the longer. It's really interesting. Just talking about you read history, and a lot of times all you read is the big, about the big events, but I think the most interesting part is how people grew up and what Newton was like, and the fact that you have an Italian village and Italian coming around with the big guitars and singing.
there are the old houses. Perhaps you can tell a little bit about that time. I don't know the Allen School is in here. I'll leave it with you a minute. That one the city gave us.
I have
Probably the same kind of thing that you're doing for.
I'm sure, they probably have.
Oh yes, they must have that. 'Cause I got that at the police station.
We have a great-grand-nephew who's Associate Director of Foreign Students at Harvard University.
Irene, what did, you mentioned that you started teaching. Somewhere you mentioned that you were teaching.
Well, I went back into music school I studied there. And started with Miss Spike first, then she founded the school, and immediately I went into that, and then about 1917.
You must have been
About 1916 I started teaching.
Teaching music.
Teaching in the school, under the school. They established a branch down in Nonan. You know where that is? It's going into Walkdown.
Okay.
And that was,
in the old days, it was the Jewish.
that was Jewish and some Italian and French. They had a French church down there. They still have, I think.
And Irene taught a lot of Jewish
An
people
Armenian.
that were hard. The mother would call up and say, you gave Sammy a very nice piece on the violin, but you didn't give my son a nice piece on the violin. So she had to cope with the parents of the Jewish people.
Oh, they were very kind. They often, we could only teach in the school so many hours, and I taught at the cantor, and her mother opened her house to me, and I would go to the school, and she had this wonderful hot Jewish bread and butter, delicious butter on it, and then I taught. Then from there, the library right on the corner was then, and they let me go over to the library and teach, and anyone would look in to see me teaching. That was so I'd teach there until they closed.
Well, when she brought the pupils here, oh, was she strict with them. And my mother and I would be listening, and oh, she'd have them on Sundays, and she'd work 8 days a week, and she'd have pupils on Sundays. Oh.
But we knew the people who lived originally in those houses. They were the Hamiltons and Dr. Putnam. They built those houses for them, I think, don't you think? They never belonged to anyone else. Hamilton and Dr. Putnam and the man who invented one of the very good railroad signals lived on this street in a little bungalow, Mr. Ruddick. He was quite a well-to-do man on that invention.
What was the social life, especially when you were young? Maybe not when you were really little, but when you were in your 20s.
Oh, in the 20s. I lived in the big house, and I used to have my friends come in, and we had a big floor, and we danced, because the floors were waxed. And I remember my brother used to say, I have to wax these floors for Doris's crowd to scratch them up.
And they used to sing around the piano a lot.
And then, sing around, and but we never, and then, it was a big affair. We went to Woodland Golf for Saturday night. You had to wear an evening dress and tuxedos, and that was nice. And our crowd, we were too young it was during Prohibition, and we couldn't have liquor, but some of the older people would, and we were disgusted with the way they acted after they'd been drinking, We were straight-laced.
And when was the Newton Symphony Orchestra founded? Oh, there was the beginning of that down in Players Hall. There was they formed a small orchestra. Mr. Levnome, who played clarinet in Boston Symphony, came out and led it. Like remember we played Trongerar was one thing we played. That's the only. Then, who was the organist who founded the symphony orchestra up in New York City?
Smith.
Oh. Yeah. Victor Smith.
You mean McLean?
McLean. Then Ralph McLean founded a big orchestra, and that was financed by William Minot of who lived in Boston. He came
Minot
out.
Kendall, Brokerage House.
They were the Minot's pictures are in the Gainsborough.
We got right in with the rich people
collection.
and the swank people through our music.
Minot's ancestors.
So it made us a little bit,
And he came out with Olga Monks, who was her mother inherited the jewelry from Mrs. Jack Gardner. But she was she was one of her greatest friends. And so Mrs. Olga Monks used to come out dressed up there, they dressed for dinner, and she had a maid with her.
yes, when we had a concert, and she'd have an ermine wrap, and she'd come out with that. And at rehearsals, she'd wear red stockings, nobody else did, and long earrings, and her hair back, not like anybody else.
She married a Russian
And
afterward.
when we used to go into Mr. Minor's house to play quartets, Olga was invited to play with us. And we invited us to dinner too. And they had a cousin who sat next to me at the table. And what did he do? The first thing he did was drop when he was putting salt in the soup, he dropped the shaker. Well, Mrs. Minor didn't wait for the maid to pick it up. She went herself and picked it up and brought that out of the soup. Well, then next came the quail. And I looked over at Irene. They had given us, it was during Prohibition, and they had given us a cocktail beforehand. It was a light one. The rich could manage to get it. And so I looked over at Irene, and here in her quail, she hadn't made a dent in it. And I got worried, whether the drink affected her or not. But I had all the courage to manipulate it, because with the soup basket next to me, I thought, well, I can't do anything worse than that. So I went at it and enjoyed it. And so before we played, we went upstairs to freshen up, and I said to her, Irene, are you all right? And I said, you didn't touch your quail. And she said, it was so tough, I couldn't get into it.
Well, it was just inexperience, I suppose. Everybody knew it.
So my boyfriend picked us up, and he went to the movies while we were at the Marlborough Street, and he picked us up, and